Adopted. Page 27 of the calendar is House Joint Resolution 51, Representative Thapedi. There is a floor amendment. Mr. Clerk, read the resolution.
House Joint Resolution 51 creates the Interstate Gun Trafficking Task Force within the Illinois State Police. Floor Amendment number 1, offered by Representative Thapedi, has been approved for consideration.
Gentleman from Cook, Representative Thapedi, on floor amendment number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. House Joint Resolution 51 does exactly what the clerk said, that it creates the Interstate Gun Trafficking Task Force. Amendment number 1 is as a result of an agreement between myself, the National Rifle Association, and the Illinois State Rifle Association to add 2 additional seats onto the task force, making it a total of 13, and also making a change in the body of the resolution indicating that the number of Chicago public school students that have died has increased from 29 to 36, and I urge its adoption, at least with respect to amendment number 1 at this time.
The gentleman has moved adoption of floor amendment number 1, and on that question, the gentleman from Jasper, Representative Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
He indicates he will.
Representative, you said that you added some positions on this bill.
Yes.
Who did you add to the list of people that were in the original bill?
The 2 additional seats. The 2 additional seats are one from the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and the second additional seat is the Illinois Sheriff's Association. Those were both made at the request of the NRA and the ISRA.
But the NRA is not in favor of your joint resolution as worded. They were just made recommendations.
Okay.
Did they make additional recommendations for being on this task force?
No.
Well, let's listen up, folks. Let's read who's on this supposedly uncommitted task force. The Director of State Police, Attorney General, Cook County State's Attorney, Cook County Sheriff, Superintendent of Chicago Public Schools, or Police Department, 3 appointees by the Governor, 3 appointees by the Mayor of Chicago, and Executive Director of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and the Director of the Sheriff's Association. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, we know what the outcome of this task force is going to be with the makeup like that. I think that there should be some people who offer opposing views of maybe what's going to be recommended in this report, because with the people that are on this committee or task force, you know, they could say we got to ban guns and we recommend it. No, I mean, I think that there's a Representative Reboletti is going to talk about another amendment we have to make this task force more balanced so that all sides can be heard, and more of a accurate assessment of what really needs to be done can come from this task force.
I can appreciate your comments, Representative, but I think that what you're missing here is that this is a law enforcement-based task force. So if there are
all from Chicago.
Well, it's not all from Chicago. If there are any other law enforcement agencies that you think that need to be included in the task force that will reflect the true value and nature of the state of Illinois, please let me know. That was the first thing that I did. I reached out to everyone on your side of the aisle as well as my side of the aisle to find out if we truly had included all of those individuals in law enforcement that needed to be there. And after speaking with the NRA and after speaking with the ISRA, they indicated that there was not enough law enforcement representation as far as downstate is concerned. So they created, or at least gave some recommendations for additional members, and we picked up those 2 additional members, which covers the entire state.
But they're still opposed to your resolution the way it is worded. They've contacted us, and that's why we're standing up. I mean, most of these resolutions are flying through. So okay. With that to the resolution, Mr. Speaker, I think this needs some more work before it leaves this chamber so that whatever comes out of this task force is more accurately reflective of what really needs to happen. And with that, I would ask for a recorded vote on this resolution with verification of vote.
Further questions? The gentleman from Cook, Representative Osterman.
I'm glad the previous sponsor wanted a roll call vote on this. That's something that every person in the state of Illinois should watch and see. So, Representative, that's a great move, and I'm glad that everyone in this state will know who would be against this. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the House, we argue these issues out time and time again, and this is a task force to look at gun trafficking. Members of the other side of the aisle have gotten up time and again and talked about firearms coming from Mississippi, firearms coming from Indiana, firearms coming from everywhere else but Illinois. So, and I would recommend that one of the groups on here is the Sheriff's Organization, who this year has endorsed conceal and carry. Bottom line is that any recommendation before this task force will come back to all of us. So we study issues left and right all the time, and all of us should not be afraid of truthful information. We will all look at the data on this, and all of us will make our recommendations on ultimately what comes out of this task force, but we should not be afraid of having people study a significant problem of what? Bringing illegal firearms into our state. So with that, I would encourage an aye vote, and I strongly recommend a recorded vote on this so that every member of the state of Illinois who lives here can see how people vote.
Excuse. Oh, don't hit your buttons yet. The chair admonishes itself. A little quick on the trigger. The gentleman from Champaign, Representative Rose.
Representative, Mr. Speaker, may I ask some questions of the sponsor?
Certainly.
Mr. Thapedi, first of all, in the few months that you've been here, I found you to be a very fair individual and a thoughtful individual. I've enjoyed serving with you on the Judiciary Committee. Is there a reason why we've left off, say, the State Rifle Association off the committee task, the task force membership?
Yes, Mr. Rose. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Yes, Mr. Rose. Again, please understand that the concept here is that this is a law enforcement-based task force. These are the professionals that understand this better than any of us in the chamber. And I think it's important for me to note that the ATF recently completed a study spanning and analyzing a 5-year time period. And ATF found that 43% of all of the weapons seized in 5 police districts in the city of Chicago came from Mississippi. So clearly we have a problem. And one of the things that I did that when we were first crafting the language here is that I went to all of my colleagues that line I-57 and line I-55 to talk with them about this issue. And I got varying opinions as to whether or not this was a viable vehicle to conduct this study, but I don't think that there's any other way for us to do this. I mean,
well, I guess
in
my humble suggestion, quite frankly, would be to add a couple slots for the gun owners of the state of Illinois to make sure they have fair representation at the table. I mean, I don't know that is, again, out of line. I mean, you've got law enforcement on this, and law enforcement, as you know, on some subjects like conceal and carry is all over the place. The Sheriff's Association supports conceal and carry.
Sure.
But I guess my point is, if we're going to do this, and I don't really have an objection to doing it, I think the data would be useful, if for no other reason than tracking and stopping the illegal trafficking in guns. And but we should have a fair process and a fair representation on this commission, and have some gun owners at the table, or some of the groups that represent gun owners and sportsmen in this state.
Well, again, I think that this is not a matter of the pro-gun, anti-gun lobby. That's not what we're talking about here today. We're talking about addressing an issue that we have a factual basis to recognize that we have a problem. And the only way to come up with a solution is not for us to battle, Representative Rose. It's for us to work together. And the way that we work together is that we bring those law enforcement officials in from all across the state, not just the city of Chicago, not Cairo, all over the state. That's why we agreed to include the other law enforcement agencies that were recommended by NRA.
What would it hurt to include a few sportsmen on the commission? I mean, look,
Well,
we don't want illegal guns on our streets.
Sure.
I mean, we want to stop that. We want to help you stop the trafficking of illegal guns. So what does it hurt to have the Illinois State Rifle Association say at the table?
because that's not the purpose here. If the Illinois Rifle Association wants a seat, then the Illinois Council Against Gun Violence would want a seat, and everyone else. That's not the purpose here. The purpose here is to keep it law enforcement based. And if you can identify another law enforcement agency for me that needs to be included, I'm all ears.
Well, I have a few sheriffs who might be very interested in being on this, actually, but that's beside the point. Representative, all I would say to you is, if you want a solution, which I think is what you want, and like I said, in the 5 months you've been here, I've developed an immense amount of respect for you as an individual. But if you want a solution, then you're going to need to have all the people at the table. And that's my only thought, sir. And obviously it sounds like you want to proceed on this as is, but I just disagree with you. I don't think you'll get as good of a solution as you could otherwise get had you had some of the sportsmen of the state at the table looking to help you do what you want to do. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
If I may respond to that, I do appreciate that comment, but I guess as a freshman, I'm a little bit more optimistic rather than pessimistic, so we'll see how it goes.
Try being here for 7 years, Representative.
Further questions? The gentleman from Winnebago, Representative Seisha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
He indicates he will.
Sadly, my seatmate, Mr. Thapedi, has a. I truly respect where his resolution is coming from, but a gentleman from Cook spoke a short time ago, a gentleman that is well known for being adamantly opposed to anything to do with the Second Amendment, and though I honestly believe, Representative Thapedi, that in no way do you want this to become an issue about pro-gun or anti-gun, the line has been drawn in the sand. Not by you, sir, but it has been drawn in the sand. I would have previously supported your resolution. I now feel that I have to be a no. And again, as Representative Rose said, with profound respect for you, I know where you're going with this, but there is not enough people at the table. I can adamantly